Now, these are the sort of the 6-star hotels, aren't they, that you wouldn't even know about. There could be one in your street or on your, not in my street, but...
or just nearby.
Yeah, but I guess sometimes you never know. They could be on your street because what you see on the outside is not necessarily what you get on the inside. And when you talk about 6-star hotels, for me, I think one of the luxuries, for the definition of luxury with these types of properties, is the space. Because you can pay a lot of money to stay in a quality hotel suite, but you don't have all those comforts of home. And one of the biggest comforts of home is the breakout areas, the space, the kitchen where you can cook up whatever you like rather than ordering room service.
Look, when we travel around, we love to stay in Airbnb around the country, around the world, because we get to stay in like a village feel and understand how the local environment feels. So, of course, if you've got an elevated income, you still like that feeling. That's part of the benefit, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think what Airbnb has done, it's allowed the people with an elevated income to come into those communities and really enjoy it, and I think that's what's been part of the phenomenon of that. And I guess where we leverage off the fact of what Airbnb have introduced is that we've been able to meet and access and manage quality homes in those areas so that the hotel experience gets transferred to the local environment and people get to enjoy it.
Yeah, let's have a look at what we're talking about, shall we? Let's have a look at Kenneth Street. Sorry, which suburb was this in again?
That's in Tamarama.
Tamarama.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is essentially, you know, you can have a hotel experience here. How does it work?
Well, in terms of how it works, from a booking point of view, we actually locate our guests through a variety of different aspects. We've got a multi-strand. We use all those major web portals where the guest comes to us from that portal, and then we'll match them with the property and with the owner's likes for those guests, and then we'll put them in. When they're in, we become their concierge. So in some cases, meeting and greeting them at a property like this. This is quite a tricky property to get access to because I guess one of its major attractions is that it's quite secluded. From the street, it's a garage door. So to get access.
So there could be one in my street.
Yes, exactly.
Although Tamarama Beach isn't on the other side of the garage door in my street.
Oh, right. So, yes, and as I said, once they're there, we look after everything they need, and we make sure that when they go and before the next guest arrives, that it's returned to the state it's in, and every single moving part works the way the owner would want it to.
I mean, this particular property, it's really all about that. You almost don't need any art on the walls, do you? You've got a whole window full of art that's just changing all the time. So, although it's secluded, it's all about the outlook here, and that's what people are wanting. Yeah, and particularly, it's as the location suggests, it's a very, very popular property over the warmer months. So, and it's an owner-occupied property in our portfolio. So the owner travels around the world, but fortunately for us, around this time of year, they're not around in Sydney. So we get its. What would that sort of be looking at for that sort of property?
Well, it varies across the seasons. If it's in the lower season, it's probably about $7,000 a week, and around that higher Christmas peak period, $15,000 to $20,000 a week.
Okay. And is that Australians that are coming through to the city to get that place, or do you find a lot more from international? Because
this property's not on the market a lot, it's mainly international guests that come and stay in this particular property. It's US and I guess it attracts a certain type of people from the US because it's close to the beach. It's a bit, I won't say it's California-ish, but you can sit on the balcony and have a wine and watch the surface.
And throw a shrimp on the bar.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, let's have a look at Lamrock Avenue in Bondi now. This is another place where you can live like a Bondi local but still feel like an international traveller.
Well, this is quintessential Bondi, I guess. It's right in the heart of, by the name of the street, Lamrock. I'm sure plenty of people know that cafe. That's not that far away, and it's very popular. I included it in our discussion today, not so much because it's for the rich, because it's very well priced given its location. But there's been a few A-listers that have actually stayed in this property. We've had an Academy Award-winning actress spend 4.5 months there in 2016, totally unbeknownst to the people in the community. She'd go and have a coffee downstairs every day. People didn't actually know who she was.
How fantastic.
Yeah, so she was right in the heart of the beat of Bondi.
Wow.
And that's the benefit. I mean, this looks, it's an apartment, it's got amazing views, but it's quirky, it's sophisticated, it's got great art on the walls, so it's also a nice, a nice hotel experience, if you like, even though it's in the residential setting. Yeah,
and it befits the style of the owner. The owner is in the arts industry, and they have come in and revamped it twice since it's been in our portfolio. We actually call it Manhattan on Bondi.
Yeah, right.
Because it's got a sort of a mix of both.
It does. It's got a real city feel that it's right on the beach
that's pretty
there.
close to the view that you see there. It's pretty close to what you look at.
Is there unusual requests that you have from people coming through that you sort of have to assist them with, or anything that, you know, is more like a hotel service, I suppose? Is there things that you have to be engaged with them, or do they become self-sufficient?
Well, look, at this price point, well, at the varying higher end price points, most people sort of have their list of what they might require before they arrive, which is very helpful for us. So we'll have everything prepared and ready when they walk in the door. I think what you find is arrival angst, and I think most people get that when they go to somewhere new for the first time. If you go back to a hotel or a hotel chain, you're probably going to know what everything's like no matter where you are in the world, but when you walk into these unique properties, every single property has got an element of uniqueness about it, whether it's how I turn the air conditioning on, or where's the Foxtel switch,
or where the best coffee is, or you give them advice of the locals around.
Yes, and I guess one of the major things we get, particularly with people travelling with children, is how do I switch the Wi-Fi on? Because everyone wants that Wi-Fi going as soon as...
Well, we live on it, don't we? We all have to have the Wi-Fi. It's an important thing.
And part of the move in our business is that if you turn the Wi-Fi on, everything else you need to know about the house can be on the Wi-Fi. So it's trying to drive people to that level of self-sufficiency. But I guess to answer your question, we tend to look to preempt what the requirements are before people arrive. If they're not there, we'll cover them off. But normally after that 48 hours of settling in and feeling comfortable and knowing where the coffee shop is and how everything works, they're on their own.
Yeah. You just want to hear about the people who insist on having 14 ducklings in their bathroom.
Or I only drink Perrier, or special things.
Now let's have a look at Kensington, Murrumee Avenue. What sort of a property is this?
This is a secluded, and it's in a residential street. It's one of those properties I mentioned before. If you walked past it from the front, it would look neat as a pin, but you walk to the back and you've got a totally different experience.
And Kensington isn't somewhere you'd normally think of as the place you'd target for a 5-star holiday. Why would someone in that, you know, higher bracket want to be in a place like this?
Look, our experience tells us that quality properties like this that can give you a diverse experience when you're there. Like, if you look at this particular property, if you're standing out the back, at the front of the house, you could be having high English tea. And if you go to the back, you could be throwing the shrimp on the barbie, if you like, and enjoying a real contemporary Australian experience. Why? Kensington is, at this price point, for the type of client this would attract, it's perfectly located. You've got university professors who might be coming on a sabbatical for 6 months that might want to stay there. It's only 4 kilometres from Fox Studios, where we attract a lot of...
Just around the corner from Randwick Racecourse as well.
From Randwick Racecourse, only 15 minutes from the airport, and you're on, in 2 or 3 minutes, you're on your way to the city. So if you're a relocating CEO coming to Sydney for the first time, and 10 minutes from the beaches. So it's a jewel in the crown.
It is, isn't it? It's a very well located suburb.
It's a well located suburb, and this house is actually new to our portfolio.
Okay.
Right, and you wouldn't get this experience in a hotel, would you? If you wanted to be close to all those things, there's not going to be a 5-star hotel in Kensington that's going to sort of cater to that. That market.
I'd like the point you just made, Dan, about these, relocating executives coming with their families. They're coming with kids that are, got to get used to a suburb. This is a really beautiful home for them just to acclimatise, isn't it? They're coming from a different country to get used to the space, and that sort of experience to have with mum and dad and their siblings, again, is not something that you can get in the hotel.
It puts you in the suburb, it puts you in the location, and if they're here for that extended period of time, it probably puts you for the first term of school in school.
Yeah, right.
So if you've got kids, then there's a couple of good schools close by to this particular house that all of a sudden the kids are orientated very quickly. And I guess if you're a relocating executive, it's pretty helpful to make sure the family's relaxed.
Certainly is. Let's have a look at Knotts Avenue in Bondi now.
I think this is Bondi's a very popular suburb, obviously, because it's on the international list that everybody knows Bondi Beach.
Yeah, they do. It's funny you say that, because when I actually, and this didn't come by design when we were talking about this, but 4 of the 6 properties here are all quite closely located together, either in Tamarama or Bondi. This particular property is closer to the water than Lamrock. Not far away, but it's right there. You could probably...
Pretty ordinary location.
Yeah.
That's probably late afternoon glass of wine.
Oh, morning, that's fine.
Yeah. It's a bit warm in the morning, the sun comes straight in. It's incredibly well located. I mean, it's right on the beach. Actually, to walk from the front door to the sand or to the ocean would probably be 1.5 minutes. It's compact. It's well regarded too for the rich and famous. We've had a couple of cinematographers and movie directors come and spend extended periods of time here. Again, this is an owner-occupied property, so given its location, sometimes it's difficult to entice the owner to move
Yeah, I
out.
bet it would be hard to get the owner out.
And on that one particular occasion there, the movie overran and the owner wanted to go back in and the client didn't want to move out. So there was a discussion and a renegotiation and everybody ended up happy.
And free movie passes to come along.
Yeah. If we ever make this movie, it was a bit late. But yeah, so that's, and that's popular. As soon as it becomes available, and again at this time of year, fortunately, it's available for us, and it's always...
There's people watching now who are planning their Christmas break, and there'll be Australians who are saying, you know, this is something that I could do. I could come from the country and come in through here and give the family an amazing time, you know, Australian family. But for people who are thinking, my property is pretty special, maybe I travel and do something, how do they reach criteria? What do you sort of look for people who are thinking, I'm going to come and bring my home to you to put on the list?
Well, the criteria is, I won't say it's fast, but it's... there's an element of commitment on both parties, particularly when you're starting. It, you know, our job is to make sure that all the stakeholders, the owner, the guests, ourselves and our staff, get the right experience. And in order to do that properly, we spend a lot of time with the owner working through the elements of what you need. Once it's done once, then you've got a turnkey property that sort of allows everybody to feel comfortable. And some owners went through that pain, not kicking and screaming, but with a lot of effort and support from us. Once you get over that threshold, some of them now will ring and say, look, I'm travelling for the next 2 or 3 months. Can you pop the house on? Can you open the calendar up? And we open the calendar up, they're ready to go. They move their wardrobe of all the essential things they need to
all their
lock up.
private things.
So we're very conscious of making sure that experience to move is a pain-free one once we've gone through that initial effort.
Yeah, let's have a look at another one in Tamarama. This is Pacific 8. These houses, you know, obviously they're owner-occupied, and you must have to set the price pretty high to entice the owner to want to have somebody in there when they're not there.
And so that's a good point, because in those early discussions when we talk about onboarding, as we call it, the question of price, so is this really worth it for me, comes up a lot. So working through those financial dynamics at the start is helpful to everybody, because you can see the reward and then the long-term reward for the pain you might.
Yes, Tamarama in particular, isn't the median house price there like 5 or 6 million or something for? It's huge,
and
this
one probably sits in a bracket quite a bit higher than that, but
yeah. And you think, well, when people are in that bracket, like, do they really want a few $1,000s a week? But like, how do you sort of tell people this is a value proposition for them when they're up in those upper echelons?
Well, it's interesting. Somebody said this particular property was empty for about 18 months after it was built, before we took ownership of it in terms of managing it. And people used to say, why doesn't that owner want the money? And somebody in our office once said, well, even Kerry Packer would probably want
you'd want a financial return.
And once we put the first guest in, which was only a 5-day stay, and the money came through and the house was left in pristine condition, the opportunities started to come. Fortunately for us, this property is in our portfolio all of the time, and it's been in there for a long time now, and it's always at its price points, which can be quite high over the summer period.
Yes,
it's always been occupied.
And what are they what are the price points for a house like that over?
This one varies between probably 10 a week at the low end. Yeah. If you were coming in for a shorter stay, up to 25 over the the peak period.
It's a substantial return, isn't it?
And before you go, we've got one last one to look at, Wallersley Crescent, Point Piper. This is more your apartment. You know, this is what people come to Sydney and think that how the high end live, really, isn't it?
Well, this is our prestige property, if you like. It's in a prestige location. It's very private. It's you would think it would suit an A-lister in terms of all the characteristics it offers. It's very exposed from the water, though. So if you're a top-line movie star... Yeah,
you don't want the photographers out there, the paparazzi.
The place you want to enjoy, you wouldn't be able to go to, unless you're a...
But it's great for a high-end client who's not necessarily high-profile.
Yes, yeah, very much. And it's had some interesting clients through it over the times. It comes in and out of our portfolio. Again, it's a domestic owner with European connections. They travel a lot. But again,
striking.
When we get it
It's interesting watching this because from a style point of view, from an interior design point of view, the properties are styled very much like we would suggest people to style their homes to sell, because they're beautifully appointed, great pattern and texture and colour and artwork, but not a lot of personal objects.
Yes.
So it's really meeting that criteria. They're meeting that market as if it's so, which I suppose fits in hand with the high-end hotel feel, doesn't it?
Very much so. And interestingly enough, this is the way most of these people live. So there's not a lot of change that goes on. There's pride in the property that they own.
You flip the wedding photo around.
Yeah. Well, they're the things that quickly can fold down. Go in the cupboard.
There's one cupboard.
Go in the cupboard when necessary. But yeah, there's a lot of matching the style of the person to the property to make it really work effectively, because people that sort of don't necessarily live like that find it really hard to either hand over or pack up to go, because there's so much clutter and the tidying up to do before the event. So the event becomes not worth the reward.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you've got to clean out the messy drawer.
That's right, and everyone's got one of those, yeah, or more than one.
Look, it's you know, it's seen as something for another level of income, I suppose, for another world. But again, for special functions, or maybe a few couples, or you've got friends coming for something, or a period. There's reasons for this, for people to be still affordable because of its location and the experience.
It's amazing, the walks of life and the style of people and the reasons they come to stay in these properties. It's you know, we have people that sell much larger homes than some of these that don't know where to go next.
You're right.
So they'll spend quite what we think is a high level of weekly rent to enjoy the experience, and a lot of them stay on. That Pacific Avenue property over its time has had 3 families that have been in there for more than 18 months at a time.
Wow.
For varying reasons.
And that's good for business.